Hello, viewers and listeners, and welcome to this collaboration between Grey Areas Podcast and the No Drama Lounge. I'm your host, Yann W. Tanoé, author, publisher, entrepreneur, activist, and the list goes on. And I'm also joined by my co-host today, who is Willorna Brock. For those who don't know, Willorna is a HR consultant. She's an author as well with a fantastic book. And she's also the creator of the No Drama Lounge. Willorna, tell us how you're doing today.
Hi, Yann. How are you doing? How's everyone doing? Delighted to be talking to you as always.
Of course.
In this sort of current situation that we are in, lockdown, 3 weeks or more, and another 3 weeks to go.
That's right. But we're keeping positive, and that's the most important thing. I'm looking forward to the future. I'm obviously using the present to build a strong foundation for a new future, And so today we're coming together, to talk a little bit about the current situation, but not to dwell too much on it, but to just give some reflection, some lesson learned, and also some positive, some tips for the future also, coming from both of our different arenas or our different industries. We can always add value to the current conversation in that way. So the whole purpose of us starting this today has been prompted by Willorna's blog. Willorna wrote a blog post that she shared with me, which was called "Just Getting Through This Is Enough." Okay, and when I saw the title, I was like, yes, somebody else that kind of agrees with what I'm saying. Okay, because there's so much out there that's putting pressure on us during this time to do things, to react, and when we don't necessarily need to. And so the main thing that Willorna highlighted was that the whole thing was prompted by an e-card she saw online. Okay, and I also saw that e-card on Instagram. And it said, if you don't come out of this quarantine with a new skill, a side hustle, more knowledge, you never lack time, you only lack discipline. Okay, so Willorna, give us your thoughts on this.
So basically, obviously with this crisis, there has been, and I call it information overload. There are so many stories, so many sort of news items, fake news, and then the motivators, the coaches, the experts, everyone has come on board with tips for what they think we should and shouldn't be doing at this time. Whilst all of this, I understand as a coach myself, as a HR person myself, that yes, we need to bring out some positives. We need to encourage people. Some of it, I think, has come across as putting pressure on people at a time when the most resilient of us are feeling a bit fragile. Absolutely. I mean, you have to be quite strong mentally to be able to say that this hasn't affected you at all. I know so many people, strong people, myself included, we all have our days. We have a positive moment, we have a negative moment. So what I took away from that e-card, as you call it, was pressure. I saw it and I thought, come on, leave us alone. Just getting through this is good enough. So I ended up by, I think part of my blog said, if you get out of this thing with your sanity, that's enough. The priority right now should be your well-being. Whilst there's some positives you could take from it, because, obviously having all this time in your hands, you can't be that. I'm sure you're not down all the time. There's some moments where you're feeling good, you're feeling positive. So use those moments to do something that at least would add value to your life, that would make you feel good. But that was the sort of spirit of my blog. It was like, just getting through this is good enough. But I also highlighted what I have done during my positive moments. So I've talked about the fact that I've had time to reflect. I've had time to sort of pray and meditate a bit more. I've done little silly things like on my phone. I have lots of pictures that I've taken that I've not looked at. You just take your phone, you take pictures, the storage just builds up. So I've actually cleared out my iPhone, cleared out old pictures. I've done that the same with my laptop, cleared out folders, little things that you've been meaning to do but you've not done, which are going to really make life easy for you. So that's the spirit of my blog. And thanks, Yann, for noticing that.
No, that's good. And I just, I will drop the link to the blog post because I think it's important for people to have a read of that. But what it sparked in me was what I was thinking anyways already. Because I believe that, at the moment, the pause button has been pressed. And I think this is something that we've all been longing for. Even if we don't want to admit it, we've been longing for the pause button to be pressed. And this has happened. And I've seen it as something positive. I've really seen it as something that with opportunities. What's been important to me at this point, and what I've been, spreading across my social media, has been, the importance of not knee-jerking. Because I find that people, as soon as something happens, we have to react. We have to do something. We have to be seen to act. And, and that's great. That's great. Action is fantastic. But I also believe in, and that's the aspect of the silent period, okay? With anything, when it comes to planning, whether it's spirituality, whether it's, anything that requires an action or a big follow-up, it's important to have that silent period where you sit down, just connect, close your eyes, just connect with yourself and think, what am I supposed to do at this point? How do I move forward? And just allow yourself to just stew, just for a few days, my stewing period was about 2 weeks, okay? As soon as all this happened, I did not do anything. Obviously, I still have to work, but I didn't do anything business-wise or for my brand or anything like that for 2 weeks and a half, okay? Because I needed that silent period to assess where I was. And once that was over, everything just fell in place and was able to propel itself. And when I came back, people were like, wow, you've got all these things that are going on. How did you manage? Because I gave myself that silent period. And I think there's such value in that, there's such power in just not reacting.
That's it. I mean, one of my mantras is basically there's something to be learned from every experience in life, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. I mean, this is an unprecedented situation. This is a negative. I mean, you could call this negative really because it's affected so many people. People have lost their lives. People have lost their loved ones. But I think one of the earlier blogs I wrote, I was like, I think it's time for the earth to heal itself. It's time for pause. I mean, lots of articles about, the fact that people are seeing animals around, people are hearing the birds chirping a bit more, the air, is clean. So I also read another article recently about the fact that when we come out of this, they did a survey, only 9% of people want us to go back to the way things were. So this has actually, it's causing change. It's making, and some of the change will be for good in terms of our climate, how we treat one another. The human has come out of us. So I work in HR, and typically organizations would be thinking about their profits first, especially successful organizations. But now every good employer is looking to put their employees' well-being first. Even the government has invested. This is, we've got, I'm not going to talk about politics, but we are living with a conservative government, a government that typically would not be doing what a socialist government would be doing. But look at all the investment, look at what's going in. At the heart of it is putting people first. So it's a time to pause. It's a time to reflect. It's a time to think about your life and what's going to happen. And it's also a time to start really put your well-being first, like I said in the article. But we're now also, because we're now sort of going into week 4 or 5 of the lockdown, it's not going to last forever. So we now also now to start thinking about when we have to go back to work, when we have to go back to school, when things start to go back to normal. For a lot of people, again, that is another change. And change is always something that affects all of us in different ways. So we've already had to change and adjust to sort of staying at home and being on lockdown. Once you've adjusted to that, you now have to go back to another mindset of going back to work. So you really need to start thinking about how you're going to transition back into that new other way of life. And so in terms of, we talked about, work and the fact that unfortunately some people have lost their jobs, or would be losing their jobs. Another thing that one can consider is during your downtime, think about upskilling yourself, preparing yourself for any opportunities that might come up. Or if, for example, you're in that unfortunate situation where you've lost your job and you need to look for something else. If I refer to my book, at the start of my book, I talk about doing a SWOT analysis. Basically, a personal SWOT analysis is your own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or threats. That's going to help us identify gaps in your knowledge of your new job or whatever industry you might think you're going to work in instead, so that you equip yourself and learn those new skills. So, and that is something that people should be doing all the time anyway, COVID or not. You should always be ahead of the curve. You should always be trying to make sure that you keep yourself, going, keep your skills going, because your employer, regardless of COVID, employers can make you redundant at any point. And as an entrepreneur, Yann will have his own to add to that in terms of what you need to do to stay ahead of the curve, to be ahead of your competitors, for example.
That's right. And I think, as you said, it's important to be prepared for any eventuality. We just don't know, maybe sitting in our job, sitting pretty, because some people have lost their job, as you mentioned, but, nothing is guaranteed at a time like this. And I've grown up in that kind of environment, growing up in Western Africa, and I've been able to understand a lot of the time just how the shifts can affect me. 1 minute life is like this, the next minute is like that, this changes, that turn. And so I've always had that way of thinking in everything that I do. For instance, just a silly example, I've always had a food storage in my house, always. Okay. So when it was time for panic buying, I was not panic buying.
Oh, really? You had enough toilet roll?
Enough. Everything is always. Everything in that room there. I don't know if you can. Yeah, in that room there. That's my storage. It is. This is my storage. Always. And so when it comes to professionally, absolutely. I've always been criticized as an entrepreneur. Oh, you've got too many projects. You've got too many brands. Oh, you're doing too much. Okay, that's fine. The other criticism was, oh, you're a 5 to 9 entrepreneur. So because I also teach, and they're like, but you're not a real entrepreneur if you're not full-time. Although I've been in, I've been out, I've had all sorts of modes of work with this, so I've got lots of experience. But today, I can see that this has been my biggest strength. It has, because today I can still have a wage. Okay, my businesses have been affected. Some of them just can't carry on right now, but because I've always had a variety and diversity of different things of business and brands, two are able to carry on today. And so I'm pouring my effort in those and developing them. And so I look at the opportunities. I look at the fact that I've never put all my hopes in one skill. Okay, and I think that's a very valuable thing that employees and entrepreneurs alike can learn from. Do not put all your hopes on one skill. Develop a diversity of skills. I often refer to my entrepreneurship as a box of chocolate. Okay, it's about, because in the box of chocolate, whether it's Cadbury's, whether it's Celebration or whatever, you open it, there's something for everyone. That's it. There's something for everyone. And for me, this is what this is about. I want to be able to be in any situation, and anything that I've got can still fit and adapt to that situation. Same with brands and businesses. Same with skills. Okay. And so, as you were saying, we don't know what's going to happen. Even people that seem secure in their job, we don't know what the economy is going to bring.
Absolutely.
Develop new skills. Have options. Give yourselves options. Don't wait for people to give you your option. Don't wait for your workplace to give you training or CPD. Don't do that. Go out there yourself. This should be something that you're taking upon yourself to build yourself. I did another video recently talk about career. You create and build your own career. Okay, you can be as creative as you want building that career, and the same goes for skills.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's not a case of, because we're talking about pressure, we're not wanting to put pressure on people. We're not wanting to make people feel anxious about their jobs, but it's just a fact of life that things are always changing. You never know what's around the corner. And also thinking about your well-being. one way that you can actually help your well-being is by being better prepared. And that way you can deal with change better because you've made yourself resilient. You've armed yourself with an extra skill. So you know that, okay, if I lose my job, well, at least I could do this or I could do that. So I know that I'll have some money from coming in from somewhere because I've got this extra skill. So I'm talking about it not to put pressure on people to say you need to have all these skills. It's just to be realistic and pragmatic about going forward, how you're going to cope with the changes and the issues that are going to come along.
Absolutely, because we're in a world that is changing anyways. We're changing a world that is shifting. You know, whether we want to or not, that's what it is. We cannot afford to be, as employees or professional people, and just, you know, sit back and just be like, oh, no, I've got it. You know, I've got my skill. I've got my degree. No, a degree doesn't really count for anything nowadays. Our qualifications as a whole, they don't really count for much, you know. You know, the market is so saturated, you know. And so
it's what makes you stand out. It's the skills, the soft skills, the things that you bring to the table. So if they've got two people who are graduates, what is going to differentiate you? Why should I employ you as opposed to this person? What do you bring rather than this person? So those are the things.
And that's the reason why I do love the Anglophone system as a whole. Because, you know, I've been French. You know, I've had experiences of both the Francophone and the Anglophone system world. And I think the Francophone world still tends to be very traditional in that sense that, you know, until you show me your piece of paper with your degree, it doesn't matter what skills you have necessarily.
Oh, really?
Well, yes, you know, they still want the big pieces of paper. And I'm talking about, you know, whether it's France, whether it's, you know, Francophone Africa, it's still very much qualifications and, you know, that air, you know. Whereas in the Anglophone world, I found that, yes, we have such an accent of skills, developing skills, you know, building career and, you know, CPD and all these other different aspects. That I'm not saying that I'm not present in the Francophone world, but, you know, it's not as strong of a concept. And so, you know, we've got the opportunity in the system that we live in to always best for ourselves and to, you know, and to use these skills to get somewhere. Yeah. So that's the fantastic opportunity that we have. Absolutely.
Yeah. So because there's a lot, also, you don't really have to pay a lot of money as well. There's a lot of stuff that's accessible online that you could do. And, you know, I'm just trying to encourage people because I know that, you know, I don't want to make people feel anxious, but things are going to change. I mean, this thing has affected the economy in terms of, you know, going back to work and that kind of thing. Just make yourself prepared so that you're ready. I mean, I've seen a lot of career professionals, a lot of HR people talking about, you know, equipping people to go back, you know, when this whole crisis is over. What is the landscape going to look like? What a business is going to be doing. So it's just to be prepared, really.
That's right. And so, you know, just to kind of, you know, to add to this and to, you know, to bring the conversation around, so to say, you know, there's an event that I posted on Entrepreneurs Hub that was called The Future Belongs to the Fearless. Okay, and it was kind of like I
like the sound of that.
A panel of experts that were talking and sharing about going forward, but it was just very, very empowering, and I find that the future belongs to the fearless. And to that, I will add, the future belongs to the resourceful. The future belongs to the transformers. You know, people.
The future belongs to the resilient.
No, absolutely, yes. The resourceful, transformers, resilient of this world. Because, you know, this is what it's about. You know, when you look at the history of, you know, the employment history of the world, you know, so far, you know, the last 100 years, whatever, with the shifts, the ups and the downs, the companies, the brands that have been able to survive have been people that were able to reinvent themselves and keep up.
Absolutely. That's a key word, reinvent.
Reinvent yourself. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of that. And I'm not saying that there's been a lot of that on social media where, you know, and that's one thing that I want to criticize, actually, where as soon as this happened, somebody that was selling shoes would become a nutritionist. Somebody that was selling makeup became, you know, a motivational speaker. And that's great. But again, I go back to the not knee-jerking thing.
Yeah.
Think about what you're doing. think about how you're going to do it, and think about the impact that you're having. Reinvent yourself, absolutely, but take the time to think about the impact.
But think about what works for you as well, because a lot of people tend to really go with what everyone else is doing, or fashion or trend. That is why I really stressed on that in my book, in terms of it's all about you. It's what works for you. Even when you're looking for a job, it's about the culture fit. Don't go and work for an organization where, the culture, you're not going to fit in. Try and find what works for you. Find your own purpose in life.
That's right. So if there's anything that you leave and that you want you to take from this, is that, yes, you need to look out for your well-being, number one, absolutely, because without well-being, we can't do anything. And number two, the future belongs to the resilient, the people that can reinvent themselves, the people that are resourceful. So take this time, when you come out of it, and look at your skill set, do your SWOT analysis, like Willorna said. In fact, go and get Willorna's book. This is great. This is great reading.
It's on Amazon. Just we'll post the link. And also follow follow me on social media. Follow my page. I have a blog. Obviously, I work. I do lots of things, so I don't blog every day. But if you follow me if you complete the contact us form, you would know whenever the new blog is out. And I'm just wishing everyone well, really. Hoping that everyone stays safe, stays well, wishing you the best for you and your families. Don't get too down about it. Start preparing your mind in terms of, the change, going back to work, going back to school, going back to whatever normal is, really.
Yeah, whatever normal is going to be.
Yeah.
And so, I echo these wishes, and hopefully, so hopefully next time we do a podcast webinar like this,
we'll be out of COVID-19.
Yeah, we're out of this. It's a different.
We'll be out of lockdown at least.
Yes, and we can talk about some other topics. But this has been fantastic. Thank you, Willorna, for joining me.
Thanks, Yann. Lovely to see you.
This has been a fantastic collaboration between Grey Areas and No Drama Lounge. And so tune in next time for the next topic that we're going to talk about.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.